is reality. Reality is what we believe to be true about the nature of our surroundings. But how do we come to decide that true nature? Do we conceive it completely on our own? Or do other devices gently sway our thoughts onto a pre-decided path? This is the hard question we must all ask ourselves as free humans on this planet. New sculpts your reality.
Reality.
Sounds almost like rap or hip hop.
Hey guys, what's up? Wednesday night, you know what time it is?
Time for your reality brief.
Dan, is your mic on?
Yeah.
Try talking into it.
Time for your reality brief.
It's not.
Hey, Wednesday night.
What?
Sound. What's going on with the sound?
It didn't go to YouTube? Oh,
Not
yes. All of the problems.
Yay, problems. Are we having problems?
No, we're good. Anyway, welcome to Reality Brief.
So,
We're going to make the show for you guys, okay? We got an awesome guest tonight, Tomas Alvin, from the founder of the Secret Space Program group that has the veterans in it. We're always talking about on the show. Penny Bradley's an admin of. She's a frequent guest on the show. You know that. Yeah, blah, blah. So anyway, without further ado, hey, Tomas.
Hey.
Sorry. How you doing tonight?
How's it going?
I'm doing great.
Glad
Just
you can make it on the
moved
show,
into
man.
a new apartment, and I'm on the penthouse, so it's really cool. I'm stoked.
Awesome, man. So, now, you make some pretty big claims, man, and you've got a lot of memories to back it up. And now, what do you think your earliest memory of, tell us about how
the earliest thing I can remember was I was in this like brightly lit room where like the walls looked like they were made out of fluorescent lighting, and there were three men in surgical masks. One on either side, and one guy got right up in my face and shined something that looked like a red laser into my eye. And the next thing I know, there was like a flash of light, this electrical discharge, and I was 3 years old in mid-stride with my mother was calling for me.
So that was actually a memory of you coming back and not actually going into the program?
My situation, I don't know if I was actually like recruited and put into the program, or like I was raised on a breakaway colony.
Mm-hmm. And then somehow...
And yeah, due to circumstances, which comes up to the second thing I remember, I guess like extraordinary circumstances, that's how I ended up being like soul transferred, or however it works, into who I am here and now. But there are a lot of like, I don't know, genetic modifications, enhancements, or somehow found their way in.
Mm-hmm.
Because like I was genetically adapted to live in a lower gravity environment, and it definitely has like, those things definitely come through.
So how does being on Earth affect you physiologically?
Well, I mean, growing up all over again from 3 years old, you kind of like ease into it. I used to get teased a lot when I was in grade school because Shaggy from Scooby-Doo.
Yeah, I get that. Here, look at the noodly
So,
kid.
now
See,
you
I was
said...
a fat kid, so I got teased for the opposite reason. You can't win. You skinny, you get teased. You fat, you get teased. That's how it works.
So, you said
Yeah, I've always like been much smaller than the average person. It's like right now, I'm standing at 5'7", weigh 125 pounds soaking wet, and I wear like size 7.5 shoes. And believe me, that's like the most pain in the ass thing is shoe shopping. You have like really small feet, and you're a guy.
Stuck right in the middle. So,
Yeah.
now you said you were don't know if you were raised as a colonist off-world, but you do have memories of being on a colony, correct?
I have actually have some like memories of being of a childhood on a colony. Um, Not
Now,
exactly sure if because I remember two very distinct memories, and it could have been another part of the planet, or it could have been a different planet.
mhm.
Because the environment was a little bit different, but it's still kind of the same, like lower than Earth standard gravity. The early childhood memory I have of being on a colony was you know there are these houses and kind of irregular looking houses, and there's these kind of grassy alley behind them, and a group of kids decided to slap a raft on top of a gravity anti-gravity engine, which normally you'd have like several of them for stabilization, but there's just one, and so it's kind of like wobbling, and there's like this lead kid in the front is educating, I guess maybe about 12 years old, had like a large bamboo rod, it's kind of like steering anything. The other kids were jumping on and trying to balance it, and you know, kind of wobbling around, and you know, having loads of fun on this thing. And if I were to place, I guess maybe I was about like 6 or 7 ish. Um, and then another very clear memory, of being an adolescent. I remember very distinctively. You remember the movie The Sword in the Stone, the Disney movie about King Arthur?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, you know that the anamorphic chase scene where Merlin and Morgana Le Fay kept shifting and chasing each other. I was
Yeah.
seeing this in like full live action. I was riding a broomstick right behind. I felt the wind blowing through my hair, enjoying this scene, and also, pulled out a pair of VR glasses, looking around. Other kids, okay, store clerk's distracted. Run and grab it, and like ran to the back of the store. There's like this cardboard recycling device where they're always like rotating cranks and stuff, and there's like cardboard residue kind of being spit out. And I remember like literally climbing up that, the guy trying to chase me, and going through like some sort of like hatch on a roof, climbing off, running down to this metro station, for lack of a better word, where they have these like magnetic corridors where normally there would be a vehicle that would go through. But the corridor is so active and we need the service schedule. So what we do is take a running jump and into like the surfer position. And it's like one of those things where like, say I place this lighter, just place it on the corridor, kind of hover about half an inch, and I just give it a nudge, it'll keep going until something stops it. So we take a running jump in the surfer position, and all of a sudden we start like going around the tube and stuff, and flipping upside down, and then oh, here comes the station, and jump and kind of stumble, and okay, we made a clean break, But yeah, that was a very, very sharp, distinct memory. I also remember several other like brief flashes of like these colony cities, basically.
So do you know
And
which colonies, which planets that were like which planet did you grow up on?
the one at the grassy alley, the name was something very similar to Tel Aviv, but it was like a different pronunciation, but the name of it was very similar to Tel Aviv.
Okay. Now you were talking about a third planet before I interrupted you.
So-
No,
This
that was
wouldn't
the
have
one
been
with
in our solar system,
with the raft.
Okay. So
And it's like because like I remember the name of the place, but it's like God, this is like absolutely nothing to do with Israel. It looks nothing like it.
Right.
What But yeah, the name was like very similar to Tel Aviv.
Maybe it meant something else in like in a different.
It meant
species
something else. It
language.
was like more like Tal Aviv. Like it was a ET name that we bought the planet from and decided to keep the name.
Probably Nordics or Procyanese.
Yeah, the other thing about the Outer Rim is like the Galactic. The real estate is really cheap.
right. So
I would imagine Earth-like worlds would be more sparse on the Galactic Rim because you know what I mean. They
Actually, Earth-like worlds are common. It's just like you know, um, there's like monoclimatic planets are more common than multiclimatic or monoenvironmental planets, where it's like majority of the planet within variations is going to be like tropical or it's going to be like a desert. Some places are like the polar areas are always going to be colder,
right.
than equatorial areas, but it's always like,
Either all hot or
within
all
certain
cold.
parameters, like certain type of environment. If you look at Earth, the majority of this planet is like, I would say subtropical, Mediterranean.
Mm-hmm.
If you were to like even everything out, you know, um, it totally depends on the star and where, like the habitational zone on, say, Vega. And I have the image of Vega because
Yeah,
I
because
remember being on
Vega's a
shore
huge
leave.
white star, isn't it?
Yeah, it's actually a blue star.
Cool.
But the Goldilocks zone for the planet is a lot further away than it is here on Sol. So the sun is going to appear a lot smaller in the sky. That also affects the year, the length of the day. Like Vega, for instance, it has like 10-hour days and like a 700-day year calendar.
That makes sense.
Yeah, and that totally when it comes to like Solarans, we look for like the closest we can find to Earth.
Mm.
Unfortunately, like G-type stars are not very common, so we kind of have to settle
Yeah,
for like,
you take what you
within
get.
like case. Actually, we prefer K-type stars. Is actually more ideal
Red dwarves.
than G-type stars. Go on.
Like red dwarves.
No, 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 no. Those are like class M's. The habitational zone would be right on the practically on the corona. Um, no, class K are like orange stars.
Gotcha.
Yeah, it's like a step below in power than a G-type star. And we also like class Fs are also like white stars, which are like a step higher. You know,
What you're looking at on the
that's
screen
really,
there, I'm sorry, Tomas. What you're looking at on the screen there, guys, watching is his rendering of Vega.
and yeah, it's from a shore leave trip I took there.
So you grew up on this colony, but then you ended up in Darkfleet. How exactly does that happen?
It's very simple. The Brockway colonies, military service is mandatory,
That's
and
no fun.
yeah, so yeah, I ended up getting recruited as typical happens, and then long, boring transport from like the rim to Mars, and then basic training on Mars, and then I got assigned because I was from the rim. They um, ended up being assigned with the Imperial Japanese fleet.
So why don't you tell us what your time on Mars was like?
I was in the southern equatorial region of Mars, which is, I guess the weather isn't nearly as bad because they build their bases and colony towns above ground. Um, and yeah, you know, the human Martian, native human Martians are in higher numbers in that area. It's where they tend to congregate more often. There's like less. I didn't see one insect the entire time I was there. I had one brief encounter with the reptiles. Um, it's not really their territory. I think the reptilians tend to be rather protective of the human Martians. Um,
So the
yeah, I had like
natives,
one encounter. I had
the,
one encounter with the reptilians.
you would say the native reptilians and the native Martians are
Native reptilians, yeah, on Mars.
their friends.
And yeah, I was with some other like I guess trainees. You know, because there's this path between the base and the colony town. And yeah, three of them approached us. The guy in front looked at kind of was glaring at me. I was like, dude, I do not want to fight. He's like, so why are you carrying that weapon? It's like, because it's better to have it and not need it than to need it and not have it. Kind of like thought for a second.
Yeah.
Yeah, good point.
Aren't
Walked
there
off.
indigenous things on Mars to worry about as well?
Huh?
Are there any indigenous things on Mars to worry about as well?
You mean like the 2 foot spiders, velociraptors,
Yeah, tell us about some of
the
the wildlife there. Go ahead and
the
give us.
really freaky bat things.
Now,
Yeah, they're like the native humans have developed their own ways to repel them.
Mm.
so what
You
kind of
know,
stuff do they
like
do to do that? Like pit traps or whatever? I mean, what is it more technological than that, or?
they they do have technology, but it's very deceptive. Like you think when you first encounter the Aboriginal Martians that they're like a Bronze Age level civilization, but they have like the crystalline based technology that use like store information and lighting and heating and you
So
know
much for the Prime
basic
Directive,
stuff.
huh?
The
They
Air
don't
Force
really
must be nice.
require much else.
So they're like high tech on the sneak tip.
um, they they are technology advanced, but like I said, it's deceptive.
hmm
Like you
So they
wouldn't
like.
know it when you see it.
You
Like
think that's like a
they have
maybe
these
like a
crystals.
survival mechanism that they learned over time of being on Mars with all these different species coming on Mars and colonizing? So the stories go, you would think maybe there was some point they were getting targeted and they were targeting high technology like
It
and
could, yeah, that's a possibility. But they have these crystals that they have like this giant. The one place I remember really distinctly was this like really large hallway. Um, and they have these. The walls are decorated in this pattern that's almost identical to Deckard's apartment from Blade Runner. They have that same kind of carvings.
right.
And I remember there's like a group of them, and there's what looks like this giant single sheet of glass. It's not. It's actually solid diamond. It's not glass. But it looks out into like they're in the Cydonia area. Like you see the expanse of the Sidonian desert, and what's designed to do is works on the same principle as like glow in the dark paint, where in the daytime it absorbs the light and the heat from the sun and then radiates it at night.
That's kind of cool.
So that's how they heat light and heat their places
Hmm.
is basically like something designed to store and then later release both light and heat.
Okay, so now while you were moving about traveling around on Mars, what were the environmental conditions like? Did you need apparatus to help you breathe? Could you breathe in the air? Was it
Did you just
You
cold?
can
live
Was it
breathe
on
the
the
hot?
air,
outside, or
but
could you just rock apart?
we had like these kind of like things that place over the nose as a filter because there's constant dust on Mars. Even like the area I was at was like really humid, so you get this like really nasty combination of like 85% humidity and this ever-present dust that never seems to settle because lower gravity.
So it's like being in
Um,
Los Angeles with less gravity.
yeah, it just never gets a chance to truly settle. So it's kind of like floating, and that's the reason. One of the reasons why the native Martians dress the way they do. You know, they were like the one I encountered, who I spent time with, like like I said, I was walking along this path, this kind of trail, and I looked down. There's like a half dozen of them, kind of picking berries, and one of them noticed me and made eye contact. So I was like, innocently, like, hi. He's like, literally, like a jump and a bounce, like, boing, like right in front of me. He's like, hey, hug, kid, like,
And up on
hello.
the screen there,
And
we
then
got
it took a while
this
for
is
like the translation software to like, okay, come on, keep talking, keep
this
talking.
is his rendering of a native Martian up on the screen, guys.
Yeah,
Now I've got to
let's
ask:
call her Natalie for
Natalie.
are they
sake of
genetically
simplicity.
compatible with Earth humans?
Well, her name was like Nakia, some kind, almost Native American sounding language.
Mm-hmm.
This is easier to call her Natalie.
Can't say
It's like the closest thing to our name in our language. But yeah, we, spent time and you know, kind of show me like, it looked like almost like a Mayan temple, and all of a sudden she did this hand gesture and this holographic image of like what the solar system looked like, pre terraformed, for lack of a better word, and started explaining, like the dinosaurs, for example, when they were wiped out, somebody used a mass driver to kill the dinosaurs. They were killed when the Earth's gravity was significantly increased. And none of the standard explanations can, if you really look at like all the standard explanations why dinosaurs died, it doesn't explain why modern reptiles didn't.
Right.
If you look at the impact crater is the Gulf of Mexico.
Yeah, it makes
The
sense.
entire Gulf of Mexico is one enormous impact crater. Look at the mountain ranges. Like
Chesapeake Bay is here too.
you got the Rockies and the Andes are like the primary shock wave, and then you have like the Smoky Mountains in the United States, for example, is like part of the secondary shock wave, and you'll see that same pattern and mirrored on like Eurasia continent. So that was
with the Urals.
huh?
With the Urals, and then how Russia kind of has a ring of mountains to the south of it, like with the Himalayas and everything.
Yeah, like the Western Eurasia, you have like the secondary shockwave, which the mountains aren't as high or big. But then you go further east, that's when you get the really big mountains.
Oh, like all the volcanoes on Kamchatka and stuff.
Yeah, like I said, it's a mirror. If you look at North America, you got the Rockies, which is the primary shockwave. You got the big mountains, and you got kind of like flat plateau, and then second layer mountains, which is like secondary shockwave. And if you look at the center of it, it's Cuba and the Caribbean islands. You got that kind of sombrero-shaped impact crater. So it was hit like dead center, right at like a perfect 45-degree angle, and everything expanded outward from there. And and also the sediment layers with like metals and stuff, especially like metals that have magnetic properties.
Yeah, tons of iridium and rare earth metals.
Yeah, so whatever they used with that mass driver was composed of those type of metals, because mass has nothing to do with gravity. It's one of the things that those bullshit things they teach you in school. If mass was equal to gravity, explain gas giants.
Well, they still have a lot of mass, but
gravity has a lot more to do with electromagnetism than anything else.
Right.
So you have like metals that have electromagnetic properties that get shot in through the mantle and melts. The size of the planet increases. The electromagnetism increases. Thus, the gravity increases. Thus, you have dead dinosaurs.
So, I mean, not to get too far off here, what you're talking about, but back to your time on Mars. What was your basic training like?
The Natalie we ended up like she kind of teaching me a lot about the early solar history.
What was
I
your
don't want to all them to itself. So not get distracted.
What was your basic training like?
I remember like the preparation, the like psionic defense was really intense. It's like one of those necessary evils that you have to learn to do. I was like strapped down to a chair, and the first thing I did is strapped down to a chair, and then there's like they injected this thing like a spike, like a programmable matter spike in the tip. It was tipped with these nanites, and it's like injected right where the base of the skull meets the spine, and it went directly into the language center of the brain. I'm gonna get to the psionic training in a second, but we have this like wrist-mounted computer that would correlate with the nanites. So I could pronounce the reptilian languages. It's like a lot of times, you hear like how they get offended when people try to speak their language because we can't pronounce it. Like,
Right.
it gave me the ability to pronounce their language.
Sort of like a universal translator from Star Trek.
Yeah, pretty much. So and now I can still pronounce stuff really easily. I can pick up pronunciation. I just have to learn the language the old-fashioned way. But yeah, basic training, psionic defense. One of the things they did is they had like this kitten in a box, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the dude would hand me a knife, and all of a sudden they would use infrasonic technology and start filling my mind with this rage, this intense. Of course, I see his kitten, and the guy blocks it. No, this is not your enemy. You love that little kitten. It's innocent. It can't hurt you. And then they just amp it up, amp it up, amp it up, so I can resist the urge to hurt that. And another thing they did is I was like strapped down to a chair this time again, and the guy held up this looked like Dia de la Muerte mask, like cheap little plastic skull, and started amping up the fear response. And I was like, well, he's holding this thing. It's like feel your fear, recognize it, embrace it, face it. And after a while, I was like, they amp it up really high, and he'd be holding his plastic skull, like, okay, I have no reason to be afraid of this thing. And kind of like in case like some ETs would deliver a psionic attack on your crew, you won't turn against them or freak out. It's like being able to prepare yourself for those type of things. So
yeah, psionics, they can hack your will.
It came in handy a few times.
Okay, so did you have any other memories of any type of training or anything that you went through before you got assigned to, ship?
Not so much training, and I was, primarily worked, with like engineering and mechanics and technician work. So a lot of the stuff I had to do was like very monotonous, very tedious.
Right. So that it was training and that kind of stuff then. Oh, I think your signal's breaking up there, man.
A lot of times with like the outer rim Dark Fleet, we get a lot of hand-me-downs from like Solar Warden and Radiant Guardian. And the Hyperion was definitely a hand-me-down.
So the Hyperion, we lost your signal, just so folks out there watching know. The Hyperion was the first vessel that you served on for Dark Fleet, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, now what was this one's job?
I don't know why the hell that thing was still deemed space-worthy. I was an engineer. I was first. I was in the engineering section, and my first job was basically monitor the fuel mixture.
Okay, but what was the ship's purpose?
Basically doing milk runs, like basically most of my work was basically like doing cargo runs.
So it was pretty much just an outdated Solar Warden ship doing cargo runs.
Huh?
So now
this wasn't a Solar Warden ship. This was like a hand-me-down.
Right. Yeah.
Solar Warden
that's what I meant.
Wasn't like an older generation.
We lost
it was
signal
kind of
there
like
for a second.
it was kind of rounded off box shape. It kind of looked like a Greyhound bus on steroids. This is a good way to describe how it looked.
Okay.
So
5 times the size of a Greyhound bus.
Okay.
Is a good,
decent size, yeah. So,
yeah.
Tell us about the crew.
The majority of the crew were like other like rimmers and outringers.
Some more colonies.
It's only like the officers who were like actually Japanese, and we had like a different ranking system than they did. Like, our section, like you can go up to like a captain and still be subordinate to a Japanese officer who's an ensign.
So it was like almost similar, I guess, to what Tony Rodriguez went through on his cargo ship, right? Would you say
Yeah.
it's like almost two classes completely of people?
Except the thing, like they kind of remind you, like you're Gaijin, you're less than nothing. So
Right.
you know, well, you know that we're superior, and like how I ended up there is because like they look for people who have like combination of O negative blood and like some amount of like Asian heritage in them.
Hmm.
Like it doesn't have to be a significant amount; it just has to be like a drop that you could trace back to like China or Japan.
Okay.
And my,
Do you know if there's
you know,
a connection
and
with the PAX too?
like I said, my grandmother, at least this time, was Hungarian, so you know I think if that's a factor.
So
But
did you know if
yeah,
there's any connection with the PAX2 gene to that?
oh, there's definitely got to be some sort of connection because like
Okay.
everybody on there's like not one RH positive. So they definitely go for the O negative. They go for like certain other genetic characteristics, and yeah, they also like when it comes to like doing like just basic run of mill crew work, they prefer like rimmers and outringers who are like of like lower gravity because we tend to have a smaller build
Mm-hmm.
and we tend to be a lot more agile. Um, and like physically, we tend to move faster, so it's kind of like a trade off. But you know, when it comes to like fixing things, we can get in smaller hands. You get into like those tight little places a lot easier.
So
Makes sense.
were there any ETs on the ship, or was it all humans?
It was all humans, at least what I observed. Everything's like uber compartmentalized. It's like I only know what I need to know to get my job done.
So what did the officers wear? What did they look like?
Kind of like a black uniform. Like some of the higher ranking ones will have it like stylized to look like Shogun ish.
Mm-hmm. Did you ever?
Samurai.
Something like the ceremonial garb is looks more like traditional Japanese, but like the standard uniform, it's typical like black ops uniform, basically like the black on black, the black cap, the shades,
Did you ever have a run-in with the German faction?
Not that I can remember. There's a lot of times when there'd be like another faction ship will pull up, and then the high ranking officers would have a conversation, but we had no idea what was going on. It's like,
Right.
oh, there's a Russian vehicle pulling up next to us.
Mm-hmm.
Do you ever remember being in
I
any
wonder what they
combat
want.
situations or the ship that you were on getting attacked? Because I would imagine, cargo vessels are probably more likely to get picked off than anything else, right?
The closest we had like a couple of run-ins with there's like one feline species that likes they feel like we're encroaching in on their native territory,
Mm-hmm.
but they're into piracy, and we've had like a few brief skirmishes with them. And then one time we made an example out of somebody. We a Procer system and basically blew up the last planet in that system, and then turned around and took off.
So what kind of weapon would you use for that?
It's a heavy
Mass drive?
our version of Big Bertha is basically like a heavy graviton weapon, and basically imploded it. It's actually kind of impressive to watch.
Yeah.
So you see the beam fire, and you see the planet go, and then all of a sudden you see a little shockwave go,
Now,
and it's like, wait for it. Okay.
What kind of planet was it? Was it
inhabited?
Yeah,
or?
was it inhabited?
It was a rock. It was a rock. I mean, it was like somebody comes up
Just like a threat.
to you and blows up Pluto. You're not really gonna miss Pluto,
Yeah.
but at the same time, it's like you're highly insulted that somebody came up and blew up Pluto.
Mm.
Just on general principle, be like, come on, like, what?
Yeah, just a general
Why you
principle,
do this?
and it's kind of like it was like a show of force. It's like just to let you know who you're fucking with. if just in case you decide to fuck with us.
Somebody from our chat says wants to know how many people were on board.
Well, okay, when this happened, I was on the Horizon, which was the command carrier. The Hyperion doesn't have weapons like that, trust me. Okay, so the Hyperion had a crew complement of roughly 200 people, whereas like the Horizon, which is a command carrier, had a crew complement of like 100,000 people. It was a big fucking ship. That was the second one I served on. It was like 20 miles long, about 5 miles wide, about half a mile tall.
So how did you get onto that ship?
There's an incident on the Hyperion, and I was like engineer's assistant by that point. I was like, working the FTL drive, and I kind of told you about the lizards.
Yeah.
We employ them.
You told me, but we hadn't talked about that yet. Yeah, why don't you go ahead and tell us about the lizards?
They're kind of okay. They're kind of there's these 4 foot tall, rather skittish creatures, and they make their way in the galaxy as scavengers. So if anything is left unattended, they think it's abandoned, and they'll be stripped down and cannibalized down to its baser elements faster than you can blink. Yeah, the moon used to be a spacecraft, and the reason why the engines quit working is because they got in there and basically stripped them down.
So I'm showing the pictures of these little guys right now. So
yeah, they're very expressive, and they take things literally. Like if you're happen to be in the vicinity one, you're like, oh, I'm dying for a cigarette. And I was like, God, he's dying.
So
they literally will overact like that, yeah.
So I take it that they don't really have a homeworld anymore. They're just kind of spread out like Jawas or whatever.
Not really. Like I said, they're mostly considered like a nuisance or a pest, But we figure like if they can like take shit apart, they're probably good at putting it back together. So we ended up employing them. Mm-hmm. Mostly as logistical support. They turn out to be really good at search and rescue operations. Yeah. So anyways, the Hyperion. There's an incident where somebody under my command decided to have sex with one of them, and because it had happened under my watch, it was my response. I was like, I can't keep an eye on every crew and every.
Hang on, which species was this?
The little lizard guys.
Oh man, poor thing.
Iclonians is like as close as we can pronounce their name, and they don't get offended if we mispronounce it because they bastardize our language all the time.
I'm sure they.
It's like it's more like, so. Yeah, it would come Iclonians. It's easy, Anyways, yeah. So I was telling the guy like I am not taking responsibility for that. It's not my fault. And like the officers run it like the Yakuza. I was like, you'll give me your finger for this. He carries like little plasma knives on just for that type of thing, which is,
So punishment.
And I was like, no, I'm not doing that.
Punishment is losing.
You're not gonna get a trophy from me. I'm not taking responsibility for that. And the guy was really getting a sense. I took the blazer. Like, just take the whole damn on. And please, with all due respect, I must take leave of your presence because I'm in excruciating pain. So, yeah, I got the captain kind of like enjoyed the fact that I wiped the CO's arrogant smirk off. So like, okay, for this incident, I'm demoting you to supply clerk and transferring you off the ship, and I ended up being transferred onto the Horizon in the cargo deck. And for the first couple, at least like working in the cargo hold. Then I got promoted to like mechanic and weapons technician in flight deck.
So tell me what the day to day was like in the cargo hold. Explain to me how what it looked
The
like.
cargo hold, we use like flat space technology. So it looks like this giant empty hallway. You're going, when you go to Home Depot where they have the sliding glass doors all stacked next to each other and you kind of slide them out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, it looks like that, except when you open the door, you step into what looks like a big warehouse. It's basically flat space technology or basement universe is when the inside is bigger than the outside.
Like the TARDIS.
So there's a row after row, and you pull it open, and it's like a middle on one side and like a regular looking door on the other. And then you open that door, and massive warehouse.
That's pretty far out.
And there's like, yeah, it's a way of maximizing storage space.
Yeah.
Now, when the door's closed, does all that cargo weigh anything? Since it's in a pocket dimension, that's got to affect the physics of the ship, too.
My understanding is, and again, this later when, what irritates me when people talk about like ascending into another dimension, is like, from an engineering perspective, dimensions is height, width, depth, time, and then, because technology-wise, we expand a fifth dimension onto a flat plane of space, creating universe. That's when you say dimensions. We call them orders of magnitude when we talk about like different ET races. So, like, when, godlike would be like 6 OM, sixth order of magnitude. We don't say a sixth. Density is acceptable, but don't call it a dimension. It's not what it is.
Right.
Gotcha.
Okay, so now when your function in the cargo hold, were you like packing stuff away? Were you getting stuff out? What exactly did you do?
I was a supply clerk, and somebody needed something, I'd go get it or get one of the lizards to get it.
Mm-hmm.
Lizards, but instead of like climbing up a big ladder to go up some high shelf, I just get the lizard to climb up the wall and do it.
Right. So what was the what type of computer interfaces and stuff did you have to?
Mostly we had like these, like I said, wrist mounted computers.
Oh, okay. So it was all tied into that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's standard issue. Everybody had one, holographic displays.
So the big one, the command chip, that was definitely top of the line. It was new tech.
Yeah, that was a top of the line. And that's not even the biggest ship they have. I mean, the Imperial Dreadnought is like easily like 5 times bigger.
Now, what was the crew on this ship like? Was it essentially the same as the previous one, or were you kept separate from the officers? What was the crew on the command ship like?
They keep us separate from the officers. I mean, I didn't get, I most of the vehicles I was working on were kind of like standard issue, where like, like the darts, for instance, like were off limits to me and the other like Gaijin Brigade.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, and we're primarily used for like logistical work and cannon fodder. So yeah, we'd be flying our like the standard issue fighter craft. I'd be the one have to patch the hole in it, but
right.
Where they had their separate maintenance staff, their separate pilots for like the high tech shit. Yeah, like.
What do you remember about the fighter craft?
Yeah, they have huh?
What do you remember about the fighter craft themselves? Can you tell us more about those?
Well, the elite pilots, like I didn't have access to their vehicles, but they call them darts.
Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm.
Or we just call it like ninja darts. Like a one person, it's basically like, almost look like a flying cockpit. And they use like a combination of like spatial displacement and time dilation, so it's invisible. It travels, and you can't really fire on it because it's kind of out of phase with time.
It's not
So any
really
weapon you
there.
fire at it would simply not hit it.
So
And
what about the ones that?
they're designed for extreme speed, extreme maneuverability, and stealth. And the pilots would wear like ninja masks under their helmets,
Mm,
and they're trained in ninjutsu as well. So they're literally were flying ninjas.
that's pretty
So
rad.
now, what about the ones that they gave to the worker bees, the craft that you were essentially patching up? What kind of technology was that?
Um, they look like glorified fighter jets, um, with some additional shielding and some like fancy. They're the thruster design is kind of um like a 4x4 but concentrated in the back, almost like an X-wing from Star Wars,
Hmm.
but didn't have like the actual wings. And that was pretty standard.
What kind of drive was that?
You know, it was probably your typical fusion drive, um, coupled with particle propulsion for like extra speed. Um, the particle propulsion is used the same way a race car would use a nitrous tank. It's also what we use for missile propulsion.
That's cool.
And it's basically like an inverted railgun. Instead of like using a capacitor, charged capacitor to fire an object, it uses charged capacitor to suck in whatever like ambient shit is floating around and spit it out just like a jet engine.
So just like
Like a
regular.
Bussard ramjet.
Hmm.
Huh?
Like I remember seeing plans for a spaceship called the Bussard ramjet from years ago. It was in the Carl Sagan's Cosmos book. I remember seeing that when I was a kid.
Okay.
So it was kind of like that, huh? It scoops up ambient hydrogen and stuff in space and turns it into a jet and squirts it out the back.
Yeah, it just does it with subatomic particles.
Cool.
Yeah, like I said, it's kind of like a cross between a jet engine and a particle beam. Kind
Okay.
That's pretty wild.
not the way to describe it, but it's apt.
I think I can rock that.
Okay, so now when you're on this
Yeah.
command ship, do you have any idea of what type of activity it was up to?
It's mostly like a peacekeeping force. It's like kind of like a show of strength, especially like I mean, the Outer Rim is like the Barbary Coast on steroids, So kind of needed a show of force with because there's a lot of piracy that goes on there.
Hmm.
So it's like Galactic Somalia.
Yeah, good way to describe it.
If you hate space Nazis so much, why don't you just move to the Outer Rim, huh?
It's the same Axis powers that control the Outer Rim, Dark Fleet.
Yep. So now, what kind of stuff
let's
did
not. You remember, like the Imperial Japanese worked alongside with the Nazi Germany.
Right.
Okay, and when it comes to like Dark Fleet, people historical events on Earth didn't happen out there.
Mm-hmm.
So you still have the Nazi Germany's, Imperial Japanese. You still got Soviets have a big presence out there. In fact, the mining ship I was on was a repurposed Soviet frigate.
What kind of
So
stuff?
you had the hammer and sickle like etched onto. We tried to etch it off the hull, but it's like okay, leave it.
Well, before we get to that ship, what kind of stuff did you eat on this ship?
Yeah, if it's
Well,
a Japanese ship, I gotta imagine the
on the
food's kind of
Hyperion,
decent if you like
they
Japanese
had this
food.
organic reprocessing technology that didn't always work. And it kind of the way they break in the noob is like in the mess hall, like people just like pour on this like wasabi, like pour it on, and I didn't quite like the taste of it at first until like a week or two in, because what it is like when you flush it, they kind of recombine it, process it a bit, and supposed to turn it back into food. And there's one time, like a week or two in, I was like, eating the chopstick and like, now, are you sure you don't want some wasabi? So it became like a running joke. Like in the engine department, it's like, okay, we got the fuel mixture is looking fine. Get the power output. How's the how's the gravity displacement going? It's like, needs more wasabi.
Nice.
Okay,
so it's kind of like the Hyperion crew, that kind of like one of those jokes that never got old.
Yeah, I could see that.
Like everybody remembers that first time.
Everybody's sitting around kind of eating poop. I'm sure it would be a big joke. Needs more wasabi on that poopy. So now this mining ship, tell me about this, because we didn't discuss this during our previous conversations.
Yeah, what were you mining specifically? Do you recall?
What, can you say that again?
What were you mining specifically? Like ice, metals, uranium?
It was basically like, like the ramen noodles and microwave wontons and stuff. That's kind of like how it turns out.
Oh, you're talking about the food still.
It's like it basically resembles like cheap prepackaged, freeze dried food that you'd find, like used for your emergency supply stash, basically.
Like rations.
Pretty much the end result of how it's supposed to come out.
Like stuff you would find at Sheets, for instance.
Things on the Hyperion were definitely a lot better.
Right.
They actually have like their own and stuff on the Hyperion, and the meat was biofabricated, so it had looked and tasted like meat.
So it was grown, essentially, like they grew steaks.
The biofabricated stuff is basically like 3D printed.
Okay.
Where they culture the cells and then layer, and tasting and have the right texture of what food is supposed to taste like, and it came from a much cleaner source.
Nice. Nobody be involved.
So now this mining ship.
And they had these vending machines like around like the crew like R&R areas where it drop in looked like it wasn't made out of plastic or paper, but it looked like a paper bowl with a thing, and there's like a little plastic strip on the bottom and a little string attached to it. So you peel off the plastic strip and give it a nice little shake, and it turns into a spoon. These programmable matter.
Huh.
That's really cool.
And then you pull the string, set the thing on the table, and it'll start rattling around and shaking around. And once it's done, you peel the lid off, and you got a nice hot bowl of miso soup.
That's awesome.
That was like and pretty common on both ships.
Yo, I can't wait until 7-Eleven starts selling those.
So, look, you mentioned this mining ship, and this is something that we didn't get to discuss in our previous conversations. Do you want to tell me about that?
Say it again?
The mining ship you mentioned.
Which one, the Hyperion or the Horizon?
No, you said you were
on the civilian ship.
I could have sworn you said you were on a mining ship too. Like mine.
Yeah, that was after I finished with the military. Ended up doing working with the civilian fleet. That's a totally different enchilada because, everything's so strict and compartmentalized in the military that you're working in crewing civilian fleet, you start hearing rumors.
So yeah, well, when you were in Darkfleet, what did they tell you about Earth?
We were told that it was under quarantine due to a plague. It's like they kind of had to keep coming up with a better story because people keep punching holes. Like the one where it was like blown up by like a tried cobalt device kind of started falling through when VIPs from Earth would visit Mars.
Right.
So good excuses that they come up with is they don't want people to go to Earth, It's like, oh, it's under quarantine as a plague, and VIPs are housed in places where you won't be exposed to it. That's how like Donald Rumsfeld can pay a visit to the Mars colony, and there'd be like a legitimate reason why he'd visit.
Mm-hmm. So then, when you joined the civilian fleet, there was rumors going around that all of that was horseshit. Then, right?
It is horseshit. Earth is not under quarantine, but there's a whole bunch of other reasons why you do not want to go there.
Right. I'm sure you'd get blown up way before you got there.
I can think plenty of good reasons not to come to Earth.
Yeah.
Taco Bell.
It's like it's a planet of assholes. It's crazy.
I'm sure there's tons of planets of assholes out there.
Oh yeah, there's no shortage of them too.
Spaceships full of them and everything. Okay, so what was the mining like? The civilian fleet? Whose authority was that under?
It was private contract, basically. Like, and the person doing the contracting was a greedy son of a bitch. Like, they wanted them to. I was working with like, basically keep making sure that the ore processing machinery was working. And when the poor solo rock floating by, like, yeah, fuck you, too. Yeah, we ended up. There's like a kind of like a court system. It's not the best, but we ended up trying to sue the guy for damages because like we lost a ship because of that greedy asshole.
Huh.
Right. Yeah, like the asteroid belt we have in the solar system is like a class 2 asteroid belt. And the more denser and bigger they are, like the higher classification. Like a class 1 is basically like a ring of like a cloud of micro meteoroids and maybe some decent sized rocks floating around. But the one in our system is a class 2 asteroid belt, and this guy was using drones to try to mine on a class 5, which is really stupid. Usually, the way it works in a situation
like the remnants of the planet, wouldn't it?
Who has the technology to extract the ore safely, but they'd want something in return.
What would they want in return?
Whatever
you're mining,
they deem would be a fair exchange.
50% up front.
There could be anything. Sometimes like they might want a hair for a genetic sample. Sometimes they might ask for a child, which we will absolutely refuse, but some of them don't understand that that's non-negotiable.
You can always give them a clone, baby.
Some of them might want a piece of technology in exchange. Here's the thing: is most ET races, and now that we're, becoming a galactic civilization of our own, like very, very reluctant to share how technology works because we'd rather be employed by you than give away how they do it.
Right.
And also a lot of times is they've had technology that they've been refining for like thousands, maybe millions of years, or it's based on some principle that we just cannot wrap our brain around. So it's just better sometimes to employ the ET to do it for you.
Did you just say become?
And it's like kind of how we made the arrangement with the lizards. Like we ended up employing them. It's like we'd rather have a group of them with us than have to chase after them. They decide to steal our shit. Just have them work for us, and we can employ them. And it turned out to be a very mutually beneficial arrangement.
Now, did you just say become an intergalactic or an interstellar? Did you just say become an an interstellar species again, like we were in the past?
I'm having trouble hearing you from my end, so my apologies for that.
Did you just say a little while ago become an interstellar species again, like implying that we were in the past?
Yeah. This is not the first time the Solar Empire has been around.
Well, look, Tomas, we got to jump to a quick break. When we get back, though, we can definitely get into the solar history and galactography, like the outer rim,
oh, cool. Yeah,
rim, and everything.
Yeah, I'm
all that kind
excited.
of stuff. And we'll also go ahead and open up the phone lines for you guys if you got any questions for Tomas, comments. Just you guys know the rules. Don't be a dick. I'll hang up on you. Okay? All right. So we'll be back in just a minute, guys. See you then.
Oh, I was like holding off on that. Just in case kids are watching, I don't want to. Okay, that's a bullshit excuse. It's even worse. Oh, Don.
Thought they would look to us, thought they would follow us, but we were wrong. Thought they would listen, thought they would see, but we were wrong. The sun can't set, no moon could hang, not on Phoebus. We count the stars as they burn out. If I'd known, I'd save the heartache for another life. If I'd known, I'd make the promise to myself. If I'd known, the sun can't set, no moon could hang, not on Phoebus. We count the stars as they burn out. On frozen waves, the brightest light was beneath us. If I'd known, I'd save the heartache for another life. If I'd known, I'd make the promise to myself. If I'd known, I'd see the fire for what it really was. If I'd
Are we back?
of Saturn, virgin mother of virtue. Villainous animals will seek out and hurt you, distort you and twist you and misrepresent you. Your elegant innocence has transformed you into a definite
Dan, can you hear me?
of manipulations, angry ravagings, of blunder your purity, spoil your seed.
I talked to Penny SSP chat. She says that your audio is a little bit off.
Veritas.
And apparently there's complaints about my mic.
Veritas. Our own. Veritas. We will find you. We will know you.
Oh, can you hear me talking? Can you hear anybody else?
Alone you. Seeking her endlessly, she's ever elusive. Further and further now, your source gets diluted, and the well is always deeper. How deep can you dive? How deep is your need to stare the truth in the eye? The truth is that you hide from her. You are vulnerable as you lied to yourself. You are pitiable as you do. Veritas, one and only. Veritas, our own. Veritas, we will find you. We will know you. We will own you. Veritas will control you. We will keep you hidden well.
Hey guys, we're back.
Hey, what's going on out there?
Welcome to hour 2 of Reality Brief.
Yes.
Hey, I'd just like to say, if you like what you see, you can maybe take a minute, click subscribe on our YouTube channel. We finally got that custom URL, thanks to you guys out there.
Yeah, thank you everybody for that.
And that URL
Couldn't have done it
is,
without you.
that URL is youtube.com/c/Reality Brief. Yay!
Woo.
Awesome.
So easy, you can write it on bathroom stalls and, scratch it in your ex's car, paint with your keys, or spray paint it on the White House.
You can also run over to Twitter. Check us out on Twitter. We do the occasional tweet. You know how that goes. Facebook, Reality Brief. We also have our own personal group where we post many great postings you can check out. So, now that the obligatory that is done, let's get back to Tomas. Hey, Tomas. Welcome back.
Hey.
How's it going, man? Did you enjoy the break there? Stretch the legs out? You ready for round 2?
Yeah. Definitely ready for round 2.
All right, so we'll remind you guys out there listening once again, if you've got a question, you can call. The number is 757-528-8130. Give us a call.
757-528.
We'd love to hear from you guys.
Suggestion: if you decide to call, please be very clear and articulate because we're using Hangouts and the audio isn't the best quality.
Yeah, it is. It is. It's pretty bad on the back end. I mean, hopefully you guys are getting a little bit better. And I do want to apologize for cutting in and out. That is the internet. So let's go ahead and all write Verizon and tell them, hey, quit fucking with Reality Brief. Trying to get my show on.
Well, we all know Verizon is run by reptilians. I mean, come on. They had Darth Vader as their mascot. Welcome to the dark side of internet service.
So, Tomas, now you did a lot of service from what you're saying in the Outer Rim.
And honestly, I don't think I was ever meant to be returned to Earth. It's just like, that last burning memory, of the planetary assault.
Which planet?
I don't know. Because like I said, that memory, it was like right after I was sent back here. It was like literally a day later that thunderstorm struck. And what was going on in my mind, what I was seeing were these giant arrowhead-shaped things. And I would see like a charge build towards the center and like a beam fire down. And that's when I'd hear like the thunderclap and the lightning.
Gotcha.
And there's like these smaller.
Was it just white light or was it red?
Arrowhead things moving faster below it. So that was definitely, and it's like one of those things is like that image was like burned into my mind since then. I didn't really put much thought into it until like a couple of days ago, and then I kind of started to think like that was a planetary assault, and I just kind of broke down like, oh my god, and that's when I had this massive memory kind of like recall. It kind of triggered that, and this thing that happens, like, I went to this friend of the family who's a practicing dentist, but he uses hypnosis on his patients instead of anesthesia. And so I told him that I highly suspect I was in the secret space program. I kind of gave him a brief rundown of what it was, and that I need to remember what I experienced. And so, English wasn't his first language. Spanish is my second language. But we started to, put me under, and he basically said, when you wake up, you remember. Nothing specific. Nothing. So I kind of got out of there, not feeling any different, thinking, maybe it didn't work. And then I stepped out. There's an incident on the Hyperion. Like that memory just popped into my head. And ever since then, it was like this constant drip, drip, drip of like memories coming back.
So, since you spent all that time out there, explain to us what does it look like out there? How are planets spaced? What type of planets? What kind of stuff is out there?
The best way to describe the rim is basically the galaxy's sewer. It's like, a lot of like, everything, industrial pollution to just like random gases put off by stars. All the currents and stuff will eventually take it out to the rim, and so all that junk and stuff kind of settles there.
Kind of like cosmic radiation and stuff.
Yeah, it's also like a much wider expanse because like stars are spread apart further.
So it's like Galactic Jersey.
Yeah, that's a good way to describe it. Galactic Oakland.
Nice. I've been to Oakland too. I get that.
And the planets are spaced much further apart out there, right?
No, the spacing of the planet has to do with the star.
Okay, well, that's what I meant, the stars. I'm sorry, the solar systems.
Yeah. They're spread further apart from each other.
It makes sense that stars would be more
like,
metal poor further out.
On a planet, like, like there's like maybe a handful of stars, but then you'll see like the entire galactic plane rise up at night, and you can see it in the daytime too. It's like the same way you see the moon in the day. But there's just up in the sky. There's a galaxy.
That's got to be so cool.
Yeah, it is. It's like, um, that's one of the things. Like when like this time around, I look in the night sky. It's like, okay, I can see like some arms of the galaxy, but where the hell's the galaxy? You know, it's like it kind of struck me as like, why is the sky so wrong?
Right.
I guess it's just perspective, yeah.
So,
Yeah, it's totally perspective.
what does it look like as you
Like
go inner
planets
closer?
towards the hub, like the sky doesn't get as dark because there are a lot more stars in
Mm-hmm.
the sky when you get towards like the galactic core.
What kind of
I've
species
seen
make up?
images of it. I've never actually been there, but I've seen like pictures of like core core worlds and like inner ring worlds.
Okay. So what?
And the
What's
core itself, it can't really, nothing can really live there, but like the area between like the core and the inner ring, that's where you find like the main seat of um, and a lot of the beings there evolved from what we call like extremophiles.
hmm like
This
bacteria and stuff that lives in molten hot lava conditions, that kind of stuff.
Is there more AI
yeah.
activity towards the core, like artificial species, sort of like, something resembling the Geth from Mass Effect, for instance?
Uh, on occasion, what you have is because you have such a high concentration of so many stars and so many in such a small area of space, is you have these like exotic elements that only can be found there. So there's a lot of commerce with that, um, and like save the Pleiadian stellar nursery. That's like one of the few places to find superheated ionized gas, which is one of the main ingredients in starship fuel.
So what kind of species would you expect to find, on the outer rim?
Huh?
What kind of species of would you expect to find on the outer rim?
Um, just about every type of life form you see on Earth, and then some. Like there's a rodent species that's quite common around there. You see them. You know, every like different forms of reptilians, insectoids. You know, um, like yeah, hub worlds are basically where you have like a whole bunch of different ET races, and including us, will like congregate on like a single planet, like a big ass city on a single planet. Um, Kind of like Mos Eisley.
hmm
Yeah.
So would you find a lot of like interracial spatting, like racism going on out there between the different species, or does everybody
Especially
get along?
towards us. Yeah, it's pretty rampant. Like every life form thinks that they're superior and their shit don't stink
Right.
until you prove them wrong, and then they get uptight about it. And,
Well,
yeah,
is it true
it
that humans are
is enjoyable
ubiquitous?
sometimes. Like like because you have to stand your ground with these beings, and like it is enjoyable wiping the smirk off their face when you tell them off. It's like you know,
Well,
we can dish it out just as well as you can.
how many other
Because
worlds?
like they have such a colorful culture, like a lot are taken by surprise. Like I was delivering supplies to this one space station, and you know it's not especially in the rim that happens like there's a space junk that just happened to float between the ship and the moorings, and okay, I had to wait, release an air valve to blow it out of the way, and then we docked, and it's really arrogant liar, and it's like, you mongrels are late, and I go, yeah, I'm sorry about that, I'm late. I was busy fucking your sister. You can't possibly know my sister. Oh, I'm sorry. All you fuckers look alike to us. I was fucking your mother. What the heck?
So is it?
Mother next time. Yeah.
So they take things pretty literally, like the little lizard guys too. Then, huh?
Yeah.
No way, you
Except
know
it
my
takes me a while to
sister.
sink in that I was just fucking with his head. I wasn't literally fucking the fucker.
Oh boy.
Right. Especially Lyran women are not that aesthetically pleasing, anyways.
Is that the feline looking race?
They're hominids. They have feline features.
Right.
You know, they look like Scottish Highlanders. It's a good way to describe them. But to be fair, Scottish Highlanders are aesthetically pleasing compared to these guys. I'm not trying to diss on Scottish.
Gotcha. How many other worlds have you seen humans come from? Like, I've been told that human life is actually ubiquitous throughout
it's
the
kind of hard to
cosmos.
tell where they come from because everybody built a colony somewhere and says that's where we're from.
Do you believe that humanity originated on Earth, or do you think that we were transplanted here from somewhere else?
Well, we were originally transplants. The first hominids in this galaxy were Lyrans, but they were transplanted from the Andromeda Galaxy by the Elohim.
Okay.
So, yeah, Earth was originally the original solar empire. Look at where Sol is located on the galactic map, and it's like the most strategically located star system in the southwest quadrant. You control the solar system, you control a good chunk of the galaxy.
So now
just by its location.
You had mentioned earlier Natalie, or was it Nicole, on Mars?
I call her Natalie because
Natalie. Okay, and you said that she had given you like a solar history.
Yeah, she had this like kind of holographic recordings of like all this history.
So,
and
could you break it down for us? Like, what did you see?
Races, like Pleiadians, for example, they originated on Earth, and they're like the alternative 3 answer to Atlantis. Where like the inner Earth people are like the alternative 2 answer to Atlantis. Okay. And you guys are familiar with alternatives 2 and 3, right? I know you are, but just
I'm not actually.
Yeah, well, go ahead and break it down for us.
All right. This is like our illustrious government devises this plan in case of for the continuation of government in case of a thermonuclear war, where alternative 2 is you go underground and you wait it out. In the case of the Hollow Earth people, inner Earth people, they just stayed there. Alternative 3 is you go out into space, like build a colony on the moon or Mars, and then wait and come back until the Earth is habitable again. That was like alternatives 2 and 3. The Atlanteans did that when their shit got destroyed, which is how we have the inner Earth beings who, and as well as the Pleiadians, and the kind of albinoism is like a kind of a genetic mutation of being devoid of natural sunlight for like hundreds of generations.
So where did the Atlanteans come from? Did they were transplanted here, obviously, but do you know where they came from?
No, they were here for a long time. I mean, the Atlantis is an Earth civilization.
So they evolved on this Earth.
Before them, it was Atlantis and Lemura were the last eon, were like the main powers there, and before them was Mu and Nu. It's like almost the same cycle that led to Atlantis. It's like Mu and Nu got destroyed, and an eon later you got Atlantis, and an eon later we got us.
Right on.
So the Atlanteans, they went into the Earth, and they also left.
Well, somewhere like around 100,000 years ago, we decided to be the badasses of the galaxy and build some weapons of mass destruction. that somebody else found very threatening.
Now the
You
humans
know, like
did, or
Saturn,
the
like
humans did, or
the rings of Saturn would basically was supposed to be. If it ever got a chance to be completed, it would have been Star Killer Base on steroids. If you look at like the moons of Saturn, and you can just like show the audience like a Google search image of look at like Saturn Moon Death Star,
Mimas.
Maya and I'm trying to
Mimas.
pronounce it, Iapetus. Yeah, those are Death Stars. I mean, there
Mimas and
is
the
a
Apatus.
perfectly arrow straight wall through the equator that doesn't occur naturally. You know, a perfect ring shaped disk at a perfect 45-degree angle that does not occur naturally. And if you look at Saturn Moon Pandora, it's a derelict spacecraft. And
so who
symmetry
constructed
does
these
not occur
weapons?
naturally.
Who constructed these weapons?
So yeah, it's basically like a massive super weapon flanked by some really big orbital defense platforms.
So who constructed them though? Are you saying it was original humans, or was it Atlanteans? Who was making these weapons?
It was before, I would say that time I would say it was Mu and Nu that built that.
Okay.
It was like around the 100,000 year time frame.
Now, is this a human?
So Atlantis was like 25,000 years ago. It was like the last.
Okay.
Um,
Now, this Moon was
this
this were
came-
these
This
humans?
was before Atlantis.
Were these humans, or was it a different type of species?
Huh?
Were they humans, the Moon, or was it a different type of species?
Yeah, Mu and Nu were humans. There were like other species on Earth before then.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like the Saurians, for example. They were there before, and then
And the Saurians would be a reptilian race that evolved on Earth.
yeah, they're the inner Earth reptilian race.
Okay. Is that the same one that other people are calling raptors?
I've heard of them referred to as raptors, but you know I mean, yeah, they're predators, but
Are
they're
they
not like as aggressive like how you think of a
right?
velociraptor. They
So,
don't really raptors. Um,
are they
I
like?
guess like supposedly evolved from velociraptors, but it's actually some like a different dinosaur species that they evolved from.
So is it a high technologically advanced
Yeah, they're
species,
pretty
or are they like?
technologically advanced. I mean, they got like a fusion reactor as an artificial sun down there.
Okay.
That's pretty cool.
Where was I?
And then they're pretty much like alligators. Like, you know, they're only gonna mess with you if you mess with them. Like,
So in this solar history, tell me what happened with the asteroid belt. Was that a planet? Was it always an asteroid belt?
well, the moon was an artificial construct. It was brought in as part of the terraforming process for our benefit. You know, not so much for the dinosaurs, but it's basically you know, the original scouting expedition that found this planet was like, hey, this system has like real strategic value. It's already inhabited. Who gives a shit? We need it. So, you know, the terraforming process to make Earth habitable for us wasn't so good for them. And, you know, at that time, they were like Neolithic reptilian race and, you know, kind of drove them down into the cavern network when our ancient human ancestors started. And the original, like Earth was like an afterthought. It was like, you know, like a backyard basically. Whereas, and I've heard different names of it, like Malachi or what was the other one, Tiamat, like whatever that planet that's now the asteroid belt. That was like their main capital.
Okay,
But then when that got destroyed, then Earth became the capital.
so the
And what
species
happens
that
is, you know, like any, we're starting to do it. This is starting to happen to us now with the secret space fleet. Is you know, you go and you colonize, you spread out, and you end up in a planet that's got an environment that you're not adapted for. You can terraform it to an extent, but after that, you have to bioform the population to adapt their biology to the planet's environment. So, for example, like black Africans, if you guys remember the Chronicles of Riddick, that type of planet, like planet UV, is the environment, the bioforming that led to the creation of like black Africans. It was designed to withstand high amounts of ultraviolet radiation, but it's like a freezing cold environment. So everything, like larger lips, designed to absorb moisture, flatten next to the face, so when you inhale, you don't freeze your lungs off. There's like wool that absorbs heat. Um, even like you know, so that is like a prime example of like bioforming. But of course, Earth being the capital, you always have citizens of the empire make their way back to the capital all the time. That's why you have all these different races on Earth. Asians, for example, have been bioformed for a heavier gravity environment. Shorter stature, women tend to be flat chested, which is very advantageous when you're in heavy gravity. Um, you don't want to be on like a planet that has twice the gravity of Earth with a set of double D's. You're going to be in hell. um,
So what you're saying is
that
that
that's like a prime example of a bioforming and then coming back to capital with.
now, do you think this happened during the Atlantis time
Then
period?
we ended up with, huh?
Now, did this happen during the Atlantis time period or prior to that?
Your audio is
the
a
whole.
little bit
Did
breaking
this
up
happen
on
during the?
my end.
Did this happen during Atlantis time, like 25,000 years ago, or was this even older than that, where these people left and then came back?
Atlantis was destroyed 25,000. I would say this is like closer to 50,000 years ago.
50,000 years ago.
Was when maybe 75,000 years, because it was definitely after they relocated to Earth and kind of like reflagged Earth as the capital of the solar empire. So I would say between 75 and 50,000 years ago
Okay.
is when like the second major solar empire kind of was like starting to flourish. And that's part of the reason why all these like 22 different ET races have a direct genetic lineage to us, because their originally were part of the same empire.
So what caused this empire to fall? What caused the dissolution of it, and what caused Earth to go back to being a Kardashev Type 1 civilization?
I'm hearing like every other.
So what what caused the empire to fall?
It pissed off the wrong people.
Who'd they piss off?
In a nutshell, it's like you're building a weapon of mass destruction that could destroy a planet anywhere in the galaxy.
Do you know who?
And it's not quite complete yet.
Whose cornflakes exactly did we take a dump in?
Went in and sabotaged the defensive systems, and that's when they came and basically bombed the shit out of the system.
So do you know which species or race or federation, whatever, came and did that?
It was a conglomeration of different ones that came together, because a lot of people felt threatened.
Yeah, I'm sure. So big
a coalition of the willing.
Yeah, I think it was like an Alpha Draconian ones that led the charge, but yeah, it was a combined effort.
So what are the Alpha Draconians up to these days? Are these, for the most part, the famed reptilians that we hear about here on Earth all the time? Because I've heard that there are multiple species of reptilians, as many as like 54 to 58 of them.
Or even more. Some people say even more.
Reptilian life is one of the more common life forms in the galaxy, it seems.
Yeah, they're a fairly common life form here. You're going to get that. Like, everywhere you go, whatever kind of life form you can think of, it's evolved into a civilization somewhere in the galaxy. Everything from like birds, rodents, fish, there's equine species out there. You find it here on Earth. It has a civilization out there.
If there is a planet with squirrel people, I
It's like
want to
every
make
type of
contact with
insect
them
you could
because
think
that would
of.
be awesome.
Um, you'll see like insectoids that look and behave like, like for example, there's things out there that look and behave like a ladybug, or they'll have the same kind of check it out. Okay, I'm going. And then you have like really curious insectoids that one I encountered in the hub world, which is evolved from a rhinoceros beetle. I come over, about 3 feet tall.
That's pretty far up.
Who are you? What are you? What are you doing? What is that? Oh, I'm just looking for food, so don't mind me. That's kind of like, they behave in very similar manners to like how a rhinoceros beetle would behave on Earth.
Have you ever
They just
encountered
speak
life
to
from
you.
a methane-based planet like Titan?
Huh?
Have you ever encountered a life
Uh,
form from a methane-based planet like Titan?
I didn't quite hear that last part.
Have you ever encountered a methane-based life form?
Methane base? I probably had. Like, I encountered life forms that would wear like a breathing apparatus in our atmosphere. Um, there's a methane breathers, ammonia breathers, hydrogen breathers. Most like base gases, some things evolved to breathe in it.
That makes sense.
There's things that live off of sulfur.
That's cool.
I didn't ask, like, usually when you encounter somebody who's wearing a breathing apparatus, like, you don't ask, like, hey, what are you breathing?
Right. But you definitely ran into some people breathing something other than oxygen.
Of course,
Huh?
if you run into a species that breathes nitrous oxide, you could be like, come on, buddy, let me hit that shit.
I think we froze.
I'm sorry, dude with the hat, but your mic, I cannot hear. I can hear Don okay, but if you can share his microphone, I don't know what it is, but your audio, and I kind of apologize to the audience because I got locked out of my Skype account and have to use
Yeah,
Google Hangouts.
we're doing something a little different than we normally do. But hey, we're making it work, right? It'll work. Whenever he says something important, I'll repeat it. I joke, I kid. So let's see. Let me get my notes here because I'm pretty sure we missed some stuff. Now, the Galactic Authority. We had spoken about this a little bit the other day. Now, essentially, what is the Galactic Authority?
Well, most of their power and authority is from the core, and the further you get away from it, the thinner it gets, basically. So by the time you're out in the rim, that's the reason why it's a lawless. It's practically a lawless area, because like whatever influence and authority they have is practically non-existent on the rim.
But what is it? Like, what is it? What makes up the Galactic Authority?
The nearest outpost to Earth is like Sirius A, I believe, and that's part of the reason. Well, they're also like preoccupied with the AI. Is one of the reasons like they kind of like ignored us and let that one faction of Draco.
So now is this like a multi-planet? Is this like a multi-planet confederacy type of thing? Is it one species dominant? What makes up the Galactic Authority?
It's multiple species. Like the Arcturans are supposed to be kind of like in charge of our sector of space. And it's usually consists of like the older, more advanced races, and a lot of the beings that are near the core are not along our physical plane. I mean, they can't really exist in that environment. And, very rarely can biological life forms, except for things that evolve from extreme files, and they're when it comes to complex life forms, they evolve in a very different way.
So, what is this Galactic Authority's relationship with Darkfleet?
Um, they don't really have much of one, except like the further you go coreward, the more you have to like kind of yield to their authority. Um, because they don't really have the numbers or the powers to really enforce much once you get further spread out.
So once you get out to the rim, you're not really
And that, like
seeing
I
them.
said, that's the one faction of Draco managed to basically take advantage of this planet for like such a long time with impunity until we had the strength to kick them off. Is because you know one, like I said, they are preoccupied with the AI, but they're also like they're stretched way too thin out in our sector of space to really have done much about it. Like Sol is located in the outer ring, which is neck like which borders the rim.
So
So yeah, like
the Galactic Authority would like intervene in a situation that is like what's going on here on Earth with the
you've
different.
heard the and it gets lost in translation because of telepathic communication, but you always hear like the Galactic Federation of Light
Mm-hmm.
type thing, um, which got turned into like a psyop. But there's like a Galactic Federation. Um, like I said, their power and authority is centered towards the core.
Right. No, I understand that, but
So the
what I'm
further
saying
away you
is,
get from the core, and we're pretty far from the core.
yeah, I understand that, but what I'm saying is, say Earth was closer to the core within their realm of their jurisdiction or wherever they got people at, and we've say came under like
And I kind of got to
covert.
apologize for I'm having trouble hearing you guys, so it
I'm
doesn't come
sorry,
in
man.
too
It must be
clearly.
the connection, man. All right, so if Earth were closer to the core, say in their jurisdiction where they got their resources at, and we came under, say we're in the situation that
Well, if
we're
Earth
in
was
now.
closer to the core, the whole, I mean, it would be a completely different history because there would have never have been a solar empire, or because they would have fallen under
Mm-hmm.
jurisdiction of
So you're
the
saying
Galactic Federation.
they
There
would
would
have
have never
intervened.
been the turning Saturn into a super weapon. There would have never been the plant that attacked that destroyed that civilization.
Right. Do you think
If we
that
were like
maybe
closer to the core, things would have turned out very very differently for us.
so they definitely would have intervened and they do that sort of thing?
Yeah. One of the reasons right now that we have you know, we're major players now. It has a lot to do with the location of Sol. Um, it's halfway between the Orion Empire and the Pleiades stellar nursery. So we're major fuel supply. Right in the middle of the road to that major fuel supply to one of the major galactic players, one of the major powers. So that you need that superheated ionized gas or ionized, you're going to have to go through us to get it.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And then yeah, the Orion system is basically the border of this of the central ring.
What's it? I want to
And
know more
yeah,
about the programmable matter too.
Dan's wanting to know more about the programmable matter. Do you got anything more on that? I don't know. Can you not hear me?
huh?
Dan wants to know more about the programmable matter, if you know anything.
Can you reiterate that?
Yeah, and you're breaking up on me now, too. Dan, yeah, just do you know anything more? Can you expand on the programmable matter?
Hold on a sec. Yeah, I'll get.
Apologize out there, folks. A little bit of technical difficulty here, but we are traveling against, or going across vast amounts of distances here with this conversation. So, one more time. Tomas, can you hear me now?
I can hear like most of what you're saying.
Okay, so can you remember anything else about the programmable matter?
Oh, programmable matter. Using all kinds of things. One thing, it's body armor. Uh, it's very if you're encountering some kind of ET, and they use lasers, you can adjust it so the surface of the body armor is a mirror. And what is a laser? It's concentrated light. It'll bounce right off it. Is one of the applications. It also most of the shirts and like the clothes we wear under, and the uniform material itself is designed to change its composition according to the temperature. So if it's like 95 degrees in the shade, or you're on Vega, the material is gonna be like a light silky, might change color to white if you're, which happened on Vega. Like we're wearing all these black uniforms. You step outside and they turn white because like the high concentrations of ultraviolet radiation coming from the Class A sun. But if it's temperature gets really cold, the cloth will turn into like wool or flannel. So yeah, programmable matters. Smart cloth isn't. Specific kind of programmable matter used in clothing. The tools that we use, like for example, I have like a universal spanner that fits like the bolts. Like you open up a compartment. The bolt itself looks like seamless, hidden in the middle until you have like the spanner has like little signal it sends, and all of a sudden you hole it up, and there's your little nut. You put the spanner in there, and it conforms to the size, locks in. That's how you access like parts of the ship that are look like they're seamlessly sealed. We even use programmable matter like on the civilian ships in the mess room. The table and chairs would it's like the T-1000 from Terminator movie. That's a good example of programmable matter. You press a button and also on the floor and there's your table and chairs. It's very, very space saving. When you're done, you press the button, go back into the floor.
Well, all right. So I'm trying to think of what else we got here. Now, these hub worlds that you talked about, you say there's a ton of different species on there, right? How common are these hub worlds, would you say? Are there any near us? What's the closest one to us?
Are you talking about like the interspecies racism or the intraspecies?
No, the hub worlds. You know the hub worlds you were talking about?
Yeah, there's like, I was talking to this person in our SSP group, and I respect his anonymity, but he's in active contact with ET races, and discussion of because I remember we call ourselves Solarans, which is basically because we originated from the solar system. Most so we refer to ourselves as Solarans or Solarian variation of that. So we're talking about like what the ETs call us, and somebody, he said his contact said, a Domans. Then that triggered like this like deep memory of this rage of like that is like a major insult because it's a reference to the Daman sphere, which is like the kind of the soul trap around their planet. That keeps us reincarnating, over and over here. And so yeah, referring to us at, with reference to that soul trap is, kind of reminds us of the things okay, thank you, reminding our that our souls are enslaved, you know. So
So
that's like a major insult to call a Solarian an Adaman. It's like, and there've been a few times where you know I had to be like pulled away from other like hominid races because that they called me that or called another Solarian that. It's like, whoa, don't want to
mm.
start a fight. Don't want to start a fight. Right. And that's happened on quite a few occasions.
So this soul trap,
You know,
can you
we're you know
can you tell us
we're
about
kind
the
of on
soul
a
trap?
council,
Like
and
who put it there?
some
And why?
would call one of us that. It's like, the fuck you just called me? Fuck you, alien, because that we know that they find the word alien just as offensive as
Right.
we find the word Adaman. So
So
that yeah, we kind of develop an almost like gangbanger type attitude out there, just because we feel like we're like new kids on the block and we have to prove ourselves.
but you're really the old kids
And
because it's just another
yeah, a lot of
reiteration.
ETs, like from us, for our perspective, like they're arrogant and patronizing, and after a while, you just want to like slap that attitude off of them.
Yeah, I can see that.
So this soul trap, can you explain what that is and where it came from, why it's there?
Like, can you repeat that?
The soul trap. Can you explain where it
Oh, the
came
soul
from,
trap.
why it's there?
Originally, like all like all good things. It was you had this I think it was like pre-Atlantean, like one of the first ones where they had basically really powerful technology that was like interwoven into the neurology. So you imagine what would be like, and this is what the contactee guy told me. It's like, imagine what it would be like if you had everybody armed with nuclear weapons, and you get some really immature child soul incarnating into that body. So that's why they decided to create this soul network to keep like it, yeah, one thing is to keep uninvited souls from reincarnating originally, but it's also to prevent us from going out. And anyways, it was originally the one that built it had good intentions, but other races came along and repurposed it and turned it into like the soul trap and kind of forcing people to reincarnate over and over and over and over and over. You know, so
Hmm.
kind of a reminder that is like this is like our curse. It's not something we want to be referred to as.
Right. Do you know who made that decision to do that?
This I think is like one of the ancient builder races.
Okay.
Like not even the Martians know how the how or why of the soul trap. They're caught up in it too.
Hmm. So it's around the solar system or just the Earth?
Yeah, your own solar system.
Hmm.
Like,
Do you think
I
that's
mean,
the
some of the ancient records were lost when the when Tiamat got destroyed, but it's pretty much like they took an accounting of what happened since then, and then yeah,
So you
so
think that's the quarantine that Corey Good's always talking about with the blue avians with the solar quarantine? Do you familiar? Are you familiar with that?
it was yeah, I know about the quarantine. It'd be like I said, the whole thing became like a massive cluster for the
Mm-hmm.
next 100,000 years. But yeah, like yeah, out there it's like, and apparently our souls are still tethered to it. Like even if we out like in the galaxy, you know, in, even though it's supposed to be once you're free of it, you can reincarnate wherever you want. But as we're finding out, our souls are still tethered to it, even way out in other parts of the galaxy.
Huh. So if you die and reincarnate at the
But the
outer
problem is,
rim,
like, if an ET dies on this planet, their soul gets caught in the
so
in
I
the
mean
thing.
that's a good you know we were talking earlier about how you thought that you may have came up on the colony worlds and not actually been born here, but Maybe you think it's possible you may have
Type it
just
to me in the
died?
chat. So that'd be easier. Just
Sorry, man. Okay, so you know the can you hear me now? At all? Guess not.
Can you fiddle with it?
All right. Let me
Emergency power to comms. Emergency power to comms.
Window. Yeah, I'm sorry, Tomas. There's
Yes.
not really much I can do about that. I'm suspecting it's just the internet connection because we actually lost the stream a couple times.
yeah, I get that. So, but I have to like kind of ask you to repeat yourself a bunch of
Yeah,
times.
no, it's okay,
Yeah.
man. I'm gonna
I'm
send you.
apologizing to the audience because it's not your fault. It's not my fault, but it's like I can really hear what you guys are saying. So it's like reiterate, huh? So I think there's like a split second delay too.
Okay, I just got it out there. And for you guys out there listening, I asked him, you think it's possible that you may have just died and reincarnated here from that soul trap, and that's what you're remembering?
No. It because like one thing, dying and reincarnating, you don't remember very specific technological details. And are you is that person referring to the planetary assault?
Yeah, that was a question from me, actually.
Ah, okay. The reason why is because it was right after the soul transfer put me in my 3-year-old self. It was like literally like a day or two later, and that is like an image that my mind was interpreting at the time, the sound of a thunderstorm, and it must have been fresh in my subconscious. Also like just like reflecting back on that when like just the reaction I had, emotional reaction I had when I realized that planetary assault was like I literally fell to my knees and I made that connection. Simple past life memory, yeah, okay, you can have a reaction, but it doesn't hit you. At least my experience doesn't hit that deep.
Well, we're coming up on time.
I was like, literally like, oh my god, that's what it is. Yeah.
Well, we're coming up on time, Tomas. Do you have anything else that you wanted to get out before we go?
Are we good for now? Because like I would love to do this again, but hopefully with Skype working.
Yeah. Well, like I said, we're about to end now. So, is there anything else that you wanted to get out before we end?
Does the audience have any questions?
We filtered in the ones that we could, and it's hard to keep up with the chat. So, but I guess we'll give them one more chance. You guys out there watching, you got a question? You can call right now, 757-528-8130. And it is on a little bit of a delay, too. So, but, yeah, man, I'd love to have you back on again, man. We talk about so much stuff. I mean, there's so much stuff that we didn't get to that we could have talked about as well. So, hopefully we'll do that next time.
I think, like, with the breakaway civilizations factoring into it, I think this might be opening a new chapter into the secret space program paradigm. Because this is like a whole new element to it.
Yeah, the colony.
I've been talking to other people, and it seems like small amount. One guy in particular, but definitely seems to be indications that are more like breakaway colonists getting sent back, as well as like 20 backs.
Well, man, we'd love to get to the bottom of that, man. So if you have any memories as to why, let me know. And we're all over it. So, well, I guess that's it, man. Thanks for coming on, and we'll see you next time. And thank you guys for watching. We'll see you next week.
Thanks, everybody.
Have a good night.
Yeah, and hopefully I won't be so nervous next time.
You'll be all right. You did fine.
First time,
great, man.
All right.
Take it easy.
Hey, good luck, man.
Bye.
beneath us.